We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop. Yeah, it's lit in the chop shop. Turn your dials up in the drop top. They ain't based in debate, but they keep it fact straight. Going 30 for 30, let's do a first take on Facebook Live from 12 to 2. Rob Hatter and Jim Hicks going back and forth like Carter Ray, Skip Bayless and Stephen Smith. From on the court, off the court, straight to the field. Not a man that steals, but I made it steal. To the octagon where I fight to kill. We go face to face, then you write your will. I don't play tennis, but I bring the racket. I'm on the floor, I attack the basket. Put you in the casket when I'm overlapping. Never showing mercy, cause I'm always snapping. Never showing mercy when I'm in the arena. Step into the ring, he see me as I beat him. Step into the court, I'm never backing down. Killing competition, I'm smacking down. Let me get back to the other stuff at the chop shop, cause they cutting up. It's retro, coming to you live to the chop shop. Now let's turn it up. Yeah, we in the chop shop, man. Shout out to Jim Hicks and Rob Hatter. You can catch the chop shop live from 12 to 2 on Facebook Live. Let's get it. We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, we live in the chop shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the chop shop. We in the chop shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the chop shop.
H-Town, what's up? You know what time it is. It's time for the best 120 minutes of your day. The Chop Shop, the nation's #1 urban sports talk show, and also your midday sports happy hour. Yours truly, Robert Hatter, alongside Jim Hicks, coming to you live from Houston, Texas, but we're broadcasting all over the world via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And this is a great day. This is the homegoing today for George Floyd, his family over at Fountain of Praise. It's on TV. It's being streamed. I just watched a bit of it, and I know some of y'all want to be watching some of that and watching the Chop Shop. But guess what? You can do it all today. We got some great guests today on the Chop Shop. But Jimmy, I saw some. I just want to share to people. You know, I always have to give them something. I saw something, and it just said. It said the heartbeat of this country is the economy. The Montgomery bus boycott was effective not because of speeches, but because of spending. Our community must recognize the strength we have. We cannot loot, we can loot, not by breaking glass, but redistributing our funds to support minority businesses. That's the key to this thing, man. The Montgomery and Jimmy, you know how people tell me how long we got to do this thing. But Jimmy, I look, right? I sit there and I'm gonna give you some historical context here, everybody. What's up, Derek Daniel? What's up, Rick Timms? The Montgomery bus boycott, Jimmy, lasted 382 days. Through a long, hot Alabama summer and did not end until the Supreme Court declared Alabama and Montgomery's laws that segregated buses were unconstitutional. That's how you protest for as long as it takes. That's why, Jimmy, that's why if you look behind us, Jimmy, if you look at the back, I call that picture the Ali Summit. Very, very important picture. I've had that picture in my family for a long time. Didn't understand it that much when I was a little young man. But I see all the top athletes. And when Ali said he wasn't going to go to war and was going to boycott the Army, guess what? Jim Brown, all of those guys, Lou Alcindor, Abdul-Jabbar, all of those top athletes of their time, they were sitting there right there with him. So that's symbolic today, and I just wanted to share that with y'all. But I know, and Jimmy, this, and we talked about the system. Everybody talking about the system, and talking about the system is broken, and the system is broken. No, the system isn't broken. The system was built that way. So we got to unbuild it. We got to undo the system. So don't never get it. It's not broken. It was built that way. But Jimmy, what you got today? It's George Floyd's day today. The mayor deemed it George Floyd, June, I was hoping I didn't steal your thunder, June 9th, George Floyd today. What you got? You got your mute on, Doc.
Yeah, now I unmuted guys on the Chop Shop. I want to remind you, and indeed, just want to remind you that today is a mourning. Houston, the city of Houston is mourning George Floyd, and the proceedings are taking place right now as we're on the air. But you can have the option to do like we do. Just tape it. Tape it. That way you can go back, because we got some good stuff for you in the Chop Shop.
Oh yes,
so
that's
just
right.
hit the tape.
That's right.
Hit the tape button. Tape it. We have college coaches going to be joining us today.
Right.
A couple of them, and that way you can dip in. That way now you can get the best of both worlds. And but it's a great service, and only 500 or so people was allowed today, and for the private funeral. A lot of the dignitaries and family and everything is, trust me, this and white, some of my white audience members. Remember, little bitty things like even a funeral can help. We don't never expect you to fully understand Black people. It's a difference between knowing a person and understanding them. Understanding them means an example of them meaning that you pretty much know what they want. You ever saw some old couples, one start talking and the other one can end his sentence? They understand each other. When you go to the store, you already know what that person wants. You already know what order they want. You understand why they want to eat. Just like sometimes you can understand when your puppy want to use the restroom. You understand. He's not talking the same way. You understand. Yeah. Some puppies go and they bark.
Let's not
Some
use
puppies go
that
stand by the door.
right now. Let's go.
Yeah. Understanding is understanding. You can know, because the thing is, a lot of people claim, say, man, I could tell you guys, my roommate in college at Angelina was a white guy, Tony Kelly. He often comes to the Chop Shop and says hello. He lives in Round Rock. My roommate, great. Me and Tony got along super. And I know Tony, but I would never be able to fully understand Tony Kelly. Just like vice versa. He learned so much about Black culture. That was his first, even though he went to Dulles High School, but he learned so much about Black culture. And I was adamant of putting it right there. Everything, seriously. He understood. That don't mean that he understood certain things. You're never going to understand everything. So watching the funeral today, I've been to white funerals, and I understand that why in some cases, white churches, their services are a lot different than most of your Protestant Black churches and funerals. If you've ever been to one, Howard, you know it's different. But at the same time, we go to them, we expect that because we understand that. Other people may have seen, and what you're probably going to see today is going to be fascinating to some people. Some people are going to say, oh, that's a little bit over the top. Man, most Black funerals are what you would consider over the top compared to most white funerals. I can guarantee you that.
But Jimmy, they've had more than one. They've had more than one.
Uh-huh.
We've had more than one. We had.
That don't mean they was paying
Carolina.
attention.
We had one in
Minnesota. They don't mean they was paying. That don't mean they're paying attention.
So
I'm saying, like, you know what I mean? They might have. Yes, they might. Now get it twisted. Some people just heard. Think about it. Al Sharpton's eulogy in Minneapolis.
Unbelievable.
Right. That think about some people's perception of Al Sharpton when they first hear him. That's like a trigger word. Oh, Al Sharpton's like, you know, you hear Farrakhan. Oh, you know, it's like I don't even want to hear nothing. Those guys. So that means now, for those of you who heard him eulogize Big Floyd last week, think about it now. It's like, wait a minute, damn, Al Sharpton ain't he ain't that bad. So he gets an encore, a chance to remix that eulogy today.
And speaking of that eulogy, if you didn't hear it, he said something key, man. And I just want he was talking about how we can learn like any other students can learn. We couldn't deal with it. We just couldn't deal with the underfunded schools because white America had their knee on our neck. Then he said we could do some of the jobs in corporate finance and the intricate things of American business. We can do those, but Black Americans can do it, but they were denied the opportunities because America had their knee on their necks. That was a powerful statement that he made in that eulogy. And but it's Jimmy. Everybody know Jimmy. We are probably the only race that has a movie out called Mother Is Family Reunion, Mother Is Funeral. Well, we have we have funeral movies. Our funerals, Jimmy, we got soul. And our culture is just different from other cultures. I mean, if you think it's over the top, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's Jimmy, I'm not apologizing for being over the top. I'm not.
That means you don't understand. You don't fully understand. It's like halftimes of bands. If you ever went to a halftime of a football game at, let's say, LSU versus Mississippi State, guess what? It's a whole different dynamic of a halftime. You go to the halftime show of a Grambling and Southern, it's a whole totally contrasting different dynamic. And guess what? For people that go to the game, some people that go to HBCU have games, some people just go just for the halftime. Some people go just for the halftime. You think I'm joking? Take a picture of the crowd at the end of the first quarter. It seemed
like you was trying to say, what was you trying to say for white people to do? I mean, you to understand that this is our culture and this how we do funerals. Why we got to get them to understand? Why can't they understand this is the way we do funerals?
You're not going to make a person.
I didn't say
understand.
Make. You can't make. Ain't nobody said make.
What you can do is you have the capacity to influence.
So what I supposed to go hold their hands and say, this is what's supposed to happen? Hold up. Hey, my white friend, this is supposed to happen now. Don't get alarmed because this lady might sing and hold a note a little longer. Don't get alarmed. Somebody might get up and shout. That's what you're saying?
Okay, how do black folk get other black folk to go listen to certain albums that just came out or certain movies at the movie theater or certain books?
I'm asking you, since you threw that out there, I'm asking you
white people who are close to you. That's only one. That's it. Only the white people that are close to you.
So you mean the white people that's close to you don't know that you said close to you, don't know the culture that's close to you? I'm personalizing you. Don't know the culture of a black funeral? So you ain't had that talk yet. Okay.
Hold on. So you mean to tell me that you've had a conversation with every doggone white person that's close to you about a black person about a funeral? It's deeper than a funeral, Hatter. I'm using the funeral today as an example of one thing. If they haven't been paying attention, that way they can understand why certain things may be going on. Like why a guy's up on the stage doing a live painting while the funeral is going on. They may not understand that. A mural taking place. Everybody say, I've never seen that stuff in my life. What the hell are they doing? You know, that's a little bit old. Then you have to, so those are the conversations, because if they're willing to watch at this point, then they are probably willing to understand. A lot of people are more willing to listen at this point after the ordeals that have transpired over the last month. That's what I'm saying. And we know that. So that means now that we get here, you can't, in the gauge of dialogue, it's like this, two things. and I've said this last week, in all conversations, there are words that you call trigger words. And if those words come up, there are certain things that can come up in a conversation between a black and a white that will automatically shut down most of either one side or both sides. For example, if you're talking with a white person and they said something and you're talking about the economy or talking about life right now, and they say, but that Obama, when they say that, that's a trigger. Black folk getting ready to go in straight in attack mode. And you really don't want to hear nothing else. Because now that vice versa. If you're talking with the white person that's an ally or a friend, and you mention something about, man, that doggone Trump, that could possibly be a trigger to them. Because just as much, believe it or not, as some black folk love President Obama, trust me, they've already shown there are at least 2 to 3 times more that probably love the current sitting president. So those are triggers. So if you can have a conversation, leave those names out. Ask them out. With all due respect, we can talk, but can you leave out Obama's name? And out of respect to you, I'm not going to mention Trump one time. Now let's talk. And that's what I was getting at. And for maybe then the conversation, because that's the easy way out for most, especially for them. They're blamed, and that's just some of the talking points. They're going there blame Obama for everything in the world. And we like, man, get the hell out of here with that. And we go in and blame the sitting president. They'll say, oh, get the hell out of here with that. Ain't nothing to accomplish. But we're going to try to accomplish something today. And coming up, we got to go into a quick break. But coming up, we're going to go with our first guest. And we got 2 speakers, 2 college coaches going to join us today. And of course, one of the college coaches is indeed from Ole Miss, and that's Ronnie Hamilton. And Ronnie Hamilton will come on. And you remember, Ronnie Hamilton is no secret to the Chop Shop. He's been on before. And but first, and he's going to come. He's going to come on.
We got to go into the commercial. We have to go into commercial.
Oh, we got the commercial break?
Right. Commercial break right now.
Commercial
you can come back and introduce who
joining us first. Going second, Steve Henson to be joining us first.
I understand.
Well, we worried about this
I understand.
material, but we won't stand up for
I
the motherfuckers.
understand.
They get killed on the
Come
daily
here,
basis.
talk to me. I understand. How old are you?
I'm tired of this shit.
How old are
man.
you?
I'm 45 years old.
45 and I'm 31.
And I'm tired of seeing
And
this
you
shit,
the
man.
older generation than me, and I am too.
And we've been standing
But let me
around
tell you
as the
something.
older ones, taking all this bullshit. Always hoping for a kumbaya fucking y'all.
Come here.
Always standing around for a kumbaya. Ain't nobody coming to protect us.
Let me tell you
We gotta
something.
start our own fucking life.
I understand. But let me tell you something right here. This 16. He's 16.
And they gonna kill him next
He's
week.
16.
What we gonna do?
You tell me.
What we gonna
But this
do?
ain't the way. Because they ready to let loose. If the United States president say, if you loot, we shoot. You think doing this going
I
on?
know it.
Do it
I
to
know it. But it's time to stand up.
So don't get it going
At
on.
this point, I'm ready to die.
Let me tell
But
you
what's
something.
going on?
Let me tell you something.
That's the problem that we got.
That you see right now, it's gonna happen 10 years from now. And at 26, you're gonna be doing the same thing I'm doing. You understand that? 10 years. You're gonna be right here too.
But he also got to
So
stand
what
up
I
for
need
what he
y'all
gotta
to do
stand up
right
for.
now at 16 is come up with a better way. Cause how we doing it, it ain't working. He angry at 46. I'm angry at 31. You angry at 16.
It's old, man. It's old,
You
man.
understand me?
It's old.
Putting yourself in harm's way is
I know
not
it.
the way.
No, it's not.
You and the other your counterparts the same age and that has that same power. Y'all come up with a better way. Cause we ain't doing it.
Oh my God.
And I have a 5-year-old son.
Oh my God.
And it ain't happening. I marched 4 years ago. Keep Lamont Scott did the same shit y'all doing. The same exact thing night after night after night. It don't matter. Come up with a better way. You understand me? You keep yourself safe.
Welcome back to the best 120 minutes of your day. Jimmy, that was a little different there. A little different there for me, baby. Uh, what you got? What you got? I say, I can't wait to hear what the comments are, but putting this timer on for this next segment. So Jimmy, now you can talk about what we have coming up at 12:30.
Yeah, 12:30 is we're gonna be joined at 1:30. We're gonna be joined by Steve Henson. He's the head coach of UTSA. UTSA is University of Texas at San Antonio. He's the head men's basketball coach, and guess what? He landed a nice crop of prospects by way of incoming freshmen and combination of those and transfers into that program, and I did not realize, Alda, that 3 of these players as part of the program right now, 3, right, of the players were leading scorers in the state of Texas. 3 of them, right, are player of the years. Like, for example, Cedric Alley was a 6A player of the year in 2017. He's transferring from University of Houston, right? Javon Jackson, 2017, he led the whole state in scoring. They got a freshman coming in this year, Jordan Ivory Curry from Lamarck High School, right outside of Houston. He led the state in scoring this year. Then you got Jaja Sonny, who's coming up in there as well, and from Clear Lake High School. You understand something? You got Knox Hillams, who was a star that transferred over from Pepperdine a couple of years ago. You got Keaton Wallace. You got Eric Parrish. Forgot about Eric Parrish, who went to Cy Springs and transferred in. He's another transfer. So, this UTSA making noise. But once again, we're going to continue the conversation as in the midst of talking about basketball in this program on the Chop Shop today. So you guys make sure you get your questions ready for Steve Henson, who's going to be joining us in less than 5 minutes. Meanwhile, want to give a shout out. Women Rock Wednesday, Heather. Women Rock Wednesday. Give a shout out to Camilla Young.
Jimmy, I ain't gonna tell you no
Guess
lie.
what?
I didn't know it was Wednesday. You show us the date. You sure the day is Wednesday?
Oh, it ain't Wednesday, huh?
No.
I'm going that's
What is
COVID-19.
you
Y'all
doing,
laughing
man?
at
You know what? I should just go by my convictions instead of that's why I don't. Hey, that's why I tell you, if I listen to you, both of us.
No,
no.
No.
I can't
One
do
thing
it.
about me. No. One thing about me that's really easy is that I will walk back. I will walk back a statement in a heartbeat.
Well, walk this one back.
You
Walk
guys
this
know
one back.
most people say my bad. I don't like saying my bad. I say,
Okay.
oh, that's right. That's right. It's not Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, walk it back. All the time.
But
See,
what
that's the
about
thing that me,
Camilla?
I got to wait.
What about Camilla? What about Camilla?
Meanwhile, since you're raining on Camilla's day, she's the head, the HNIC, been named the principal at Buffalo Creek Elementary and Spring Branch ISD.
Wait a
And
minute. Hold
that's
on.
big news.
Hold on. Okay. Now.
And that's big news for her, and give a congratulations out to her and put it well in advance. But I know one day that is definitely good and right. Guess what I got? How about this? For the first time, and I can remember, the UIL, this is the program from the boys basketball state tournament. Let me tell you, for the first time, and I have many of these, this was the collector's edition, and guess what? It is printed in total color. In the past, the outside would be color, inside be black and white. This is the program that a lot of the teams get. Want to give a shout out also. This is the basketball that the teams will be getting from the UIL. They will get one of these to go in their trophy cases. And also, this is the medal that the kids will get. Not a silver medal, but a gold medal from representing their state championship appearances. Want to give a shout out to all of the teams who advanced to the state tournament this season. And unfortunately, it was abbreviated. But you know what? You guys are all champions. And the state, I'm quite sure, is going to embrace you guys as all champions and that light for years to come. But meanwhile, we are about 1.5 minutes away from our guest. And that is Coach Steve Henson. He's in the dressing room right now, getting ready, he's getting makeup up, and especially them coaches that bald head guys, they got to put the stuff on the head or the head won't shine and all that stuff. So he getting all that done. He's gonna be joining us shortly. Meanwhile, other news out there, Hal, did you know that Georgia Tech has announced that all of their programs, sports, will be taking the day off on election day? I think that's really good. That's really important. Once again, Georgia Tech, not saying it's the only one, but that's the one of note of late that I found. They've announced that their football and basketball programs, men and women, will be taken off on election day to enable their student athletes an opportunity to vote, which is important, very important. And the thing is, who's going to be next? Shout out to University of Houston. The Cougars took their entire team to the public funeral service for Big Floyd on yesterday. The entire University of Houston program, not just certain members, everybody rolled up in there, and they represented accordingly. Shout out to Kevin Sampson and the rest of the staff and those young men for representing, and somebody being on the front end of that, because it helps to walk those young men into a historic moment. So now we are at the time, Howder, where we can.
And I want to just let after we introduce the guest, we got to go, for about a minute or two, we got to go straight into another 2-minute break. So we can introduce the guest now. I'll let you introduce him, and then right after we get the formalities out the way, we'll go into another break.
Yeah,
so let's go.
So that's what we do. So without further ado, we bring him right on in, and I'll bring in Steve Henson from UTSA. And Coach, I want to welcome you to the Chop Shop on this Tuesday, since I know what the day is right now. I blame it on this white cup, Coach.
That was all good.
Well, beam him on in, Howard, so we can hear him.
Oh, he just got to push.
Oh, guys.
Hey,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, Coach. Now, before we go to a quick break, I tossed that quick question to you. Is there? I mentioned Georgia Tech and their players going to break. Is there any thought for UTSA to have their players get off on election day?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, maybe even being passed around as a rule in terms of men's basketball. There's a lot of talk about that right now. I think that would be fantastic. And I don't think it doesn't have to be a rule. I think we'll all have the opportunity to set that day. And I think that's something that's probably going to happen and gain more traction. I think it's terrific. I had not heard that Georgia Tech did it across the board, but I've seen a lot of traction with that. The other thing is getting the players registered to vote well in advance, and then take the day off so we can go vote.
Well, hey, talking about registering to vote, we'll talk about that. We go to a quick break and toss to a break.
We got 3 minutes, Jimmy. Got 3 minutes. Keep talking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, register to vote. What will be your thoughts and your suggestions on how coaches and even high schools can get on board with that thought? Because we've been touching this topic a lot. What have you thought about it? Share some of your ideas.
Well, it's another thing. We're together a lot, and I don't think it's something that we need to just suggest. I think it's something that we schedule. We're going to go do this together. We're going to sit down and do it, and make it an appointment to get it done. That's how that is. You see somebody on the street say, "Hey, let's get together," and it doesn't happen, right? But you say, "Hey, can we get together next Tuesday or next Thursday?" Then you make it happen. I think we have to be aggressive with it and schedule it and sit down. We do enough other stuff. We make our guys sit down and fill out compliance forms. We make our guys sit down and fill out physical forms. Obviously, if somebody doesn't want to do it, we're not going to make them do it. But
Yeah.
I think most guys would, and it's going to be on their schedule. And then I think we can have. I know some college coach, and I'm sorry, I don't know who it was. He had his guys register in the past, and I think it was a terrific idea.
Coach, I think a big good idea would be always explain the why to them. You know, I know you probably do, but a lot of people just tell kids what to do instead of just sitting down and having a meeting. Say, man, this is why it's so important for you, and take them back through their history why voting is important. Because a lot of these kids, some might not, nobody probably told them nowhere else. So I think it's a great time for you or your staff to sit down and explain to them the import and the responsibility of voting and being an informed voter. So I don't know if that's what y'all doing, but because I remember you said we make them sit down. I mean, no, we request for them to sit down and do this. No, make it educational. And say, man, this is historic. And show them their place in society. Because guess what, Coach? When they leave you, they're going to have a family. They're going to have a son. They got to explain this thing to their son and their daughter. So that's a great opportunity. If you haven't already did it, that's a great opportunity, to start there. Jimmy, Coach?
No question. There's so many different life skills that we sit down and talk to our guys about, but I don't think across the board that voting and registering to vote and the importance of that probably happens as often as a lot of the other things. You know, we sit down and talk to kids about managing their money and different things like that. But this certainly, and because of what's going on right now, I think our kids are going to be more receptive to it, more eager to do it. I mean, if there was some votes, if there was an opportunity to vote here right now, there's a lot of people with some opinions on their mind. There's no question about that.
All right, Jimmy. Jimmy, we got 12 seconds. What you got?
For 12 seconds, we go on toss the break. We want you guys to do is make sure if you're watching the Facebook feed, share the show right now to your timelines on the YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. We'll be right back with Coach Steve Henson, UTSA basketball.
In Compton, everybody said, when are we going to stop killing each other? What do you see as the problems there?
I mean, the problems are complex. Some of them are deep systemic problems. You can go back to slavery, you can go back to some of the discrimination which affected the confidence, broken homes, the loss of fathers in the home, the lack of fathers in the community, and then some of the things that surface right now. A lot of times you can see reputation, you can see the pressure being negative, peer pressure that's influencing these kids, and it's a really complex issue. Growing up in Compton, California, I remember the moments where the danger was right in front of my doorstep, the moments that the danger came in the house, having uncles who were gangbangers and losing family members to gun violence, and watching how Compton changed from the 70s to the 80s and to the 90s, and watching the drugs get infused in our community and affecting our mindsets and our mentalities and our ambitions. And if you look at all that in totality, you want to know why the black community is still going through this implosive state of affairs. Why are we killing each other? And the saddest state of reality was the fact that we were going through this together, but the solution wasn't going to be inclusive. We weren't looking at each other to try to solve this problem. Instead, we looked at each other as the enemy. And what you look at now, what we're going through right now, I hate to say it, but as much as things have changed, things are the same. I went to Columbia University, New York City. Everyone said, be careful of New York City and the Central Park and the muggings and the thefts on them streets. And Compton, oh, look out for the drive-bys and the gangsters. And now it moved around this country. Now it's in Chicago's lap. And we've seen this.
Welcome back to the best 120 minutes of your day. The Chop Shop, the nation's #1 urban sports talk show, and also your midday sports happy hour. Yours truly, Robert Hatter with Jim Hicks, and special guest today, the head coach of the University of Texas at San Antonio, Steve Henson. Coach, before you left, Jimmy, where were we going with Coach? Because we got a lot of questions, Coach, on our Boom Boom Room, on our website, on our Facebook feed. A lot of people are asking questions. So Just get ready because we're finna fire. But Jimmy, where you finna go with Coach right now? Where you?
Yeah, we were talking about, and we mentioned about getting your players registered to vote, or in the last segment. And so now, how would you recommend the coaches encouraging the kids to actually go vote? That's two different processes. Yeah. And what do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I think if we get out ahead of this a little bit, moving forward, people will be able to plan in advance, make sure that they don't schedule a game that day. And I think that's kind of the talk in terms of men's basketball is just making that a mandated day off. And then it would allow us to go and vote and travel together if we want to do it that way. And it's something relatively new, I think, for most of us. Haven't thought about trying to not only make it easier, but just, as Robert was mentioning, make it more of an educational process, something we help our guys with, and create a habit that they can have for the rest of their lives and have an impact. And right now, I don't know, people probably might already have games scheduled that day. But if not, we always take a day off anyway. We could find a way to make this work.
So how would that work if some players are already, just say that plan would work only for those whom you register that have already been staying there for 1 year or more, right? Because the ones that come from their own cities, if a kid may have registered in his city where he's from, Coach, then how would he be able to vote in your city? He would have to do
absentee voting, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think it'd be an educational process because kids that are registered but aren't in position to go to a polling site, yeah, you can absolutely do absentee ballots, but again, that's something that probably isn't talked about enough, and that's probably why there are some eligible voters that aren't voting. So I know I would learn a lot from this. My mom would be crushed right now. She was a county clerk for years, and I should probably know a lot more about that than I do right now. But one of her big jobs as a county clerk was the voting process, and so it's going to encourage me to work even harder to learn some more. And so many things are going on right now that are going to be learning opportunities, not only for our young people but for all of us. And this, what we're talking about right here, I think is a great opportunity for us to impact our young people and learn more about it ourselves. But yeah, we'll have a couple of international kids we do have a couple of international kids on our roster, so that's going to be a different situation, obviously. But whether it's going to the polls and voting or absentee voting, getting out ahead of it, talking in advance would be very important.
But Jimmy, the reason I could say that about it, Coach Henson, is because my son was out of town and he happened to be able to vote absentee. So that's why, made sure he got his vote in. And so I'm just going from experience. Kids just out of town, that's possible for them to vote by mail. Jimmy?
And one of the questions that a parent is tossing into the middle of the conversation is from the Boom Boom Room. And they're asking, Coach, why the parents can't register their own kids and inform them themselves? Coaches coach sports. Your thoughts?
Well, some of our kids, I'm sure, have that type of opportunity. One of the things we talk about when we start the recruiting process is this is a partnership. We've got some kids with some unbelievable support at home. We've got some kids that have had some tough situations back home. And in every case, we're trying to work together. And we talk about that with any of the big decisions that happen. If we sign a young man, he's going to come into our program. We're going to discuss the big situations with the parents. Some of the parents want to be very involved in terms of choosing a major, changing a major, number of hours, whether they stick around in the summer or go back home. Those are big decisions, and we like the parents to be involved if they want to be. Some parents are ready to have their kids out of the house. They just want to hand them off and be done with them for a few years. But a lot of the parents do want to be very involved with those conversations. And this is the same type of situation. There are some kids that are probably getting that type of input from home, and there are probably some that haven't had those conversations at all.
Well, Coach, earlier today, across the country up in Elgin, Illinois, the police chief of the city, his son emerged on a video forcefully using the N-word recently. Police chief came out this morning with an apology. And this is understand, this is police chief, his son. In an effort to help understand, I want to get your thoughts on what's going on and I'm just going to ask you and invite you to try, without using coach speak, because I think a lot of people just out of coach speak because it automatically paints the wrong view, because you could be using coach speak just because that's what you normally do. Not saying you, but I'm talking about as a coach. But in this situation, we really trying to understand why is it so much venom from white people toward blacks after what white people have done to our ancestors and our people and us? Why is the venom so hard from that side of the fence?
Oh, well, that's a powerful question, no doubt. And but before I move out of the coach speak part, one of the things that's unique about the athletics is it's good in a lot of cases, it's bad in some cases, but athletics are a little different. That's not normal society. And there's a lot of things that happen. You can get in a fist fight during a basketball game, and that's just part of it, right? You're not going to be charges. There's not going to be charges thrown around, and it's in many cases for our student athletes. We talk about that. It's not necessarily a real world in a lot of ways. We take care of our young guys. We help them with their enrolling in their classes. So some of that protects those young guys. But there are some positives to that as well. But yeah, with what's going on right now, the most concerning thing of all, I shouldn't say that. There's several concerning things going on right now. But the general racism is hate. That's what it is, and it's sickening. It's painful. Racism is strictly hatred in so many cases, simply because of the color of skin, and it's baffling in many cases. So that's the huge issue going on right now, along with police brutality. I mean, how is that still happening? And so there's anger towards cops, and rightfully so. But it's not just the cops, because they're getting away with it. So it's the system. We're talking about several different things here, and all of them are extremely concerning. And it goes back. So I heard some lady in a 2-minute Twitter speech. Those things are taught. She said Columbus didn't discover America. There were already people here, but yet the school books, the educational system only highlights things that were done by white people, and that's wrong. So it's taught, it's learned, and it's pretty sickening. And I don't think people are born with that type of hatred. It's ingrained in them somehow, and it's very unfortunate.
And so, have any of your basketball players experienced an or what could be considered by some isolated or a racial experience with the police officers?
They have. We witnessed it as a group. 2 years ago, we were on a bus ride returning home to San Antonio, and we're fortunate we don't have to take real long bus rides, but we stopped, and one of our young guys walked in. The whole team walked in, and one of our kids walked in with one of those sleeping pillows. We've been on the bus, sleeping pillow around his neck. Our whole team goes in at the truck stop, gets snacks, drinks, head back to the bus, and the guy at the counter accused him of stealing it. Right? We all walked in together and walked out. He wouldn't stop, and man, we jumped after him. And he wouldn't apologize. He wouldn't stop. There was nothing we could do. But we saw that firsthand. One of our young guys, this was pretty powerful. When George Floyd was killed, we got on our staff, we got our players together on a Zoom meeting immediately to see what their thoughts were, what was on their mind. We got a young guy on our team from Florida. He was 12 or 13 years old when Trayvon Martin was killed, not too far from where he grew up. He went his freshman year to a school in a town where they still have statues up of Confederate leaders. Then he transferred to a junior college in Mississippi where there's still Confederate flags everywhere. And then he came here and went to protest And this was one of the early protests, and a couple of our coaches went with him, and he was disappointed there wasn't a bigger turnout. And his comment was he just felt like people didn't care. And that was pretty, that's 3 years in a row as his college experiences have been. And he's pained by it. I mean, he's genuinely pained by what's going on out there and what he's witnessed as a college student.
Wow.
What advice? Go on, Heather.
No, it was good, Coach. Hey, y'all keep going.
What advice do you have right now? Because now we notice, and I don't want to get into it, I just breeze right through it, but there's isolated situations now where you have at various schools and you have former players coming back and recounting and imposing allegations at coaches. So now, a lot of people in the black communities, not lumping everybody into one, in black communities are going to be watching for the white head coach who comes into their living room now and saying, I'm going to treat your son just like he's mine. And it wasn't that. So what are your thoughts on that? Because my point is, in recruiting, people are going to try to use whatever you guys as head coaches and coaches say and do in the aftermath of George Floyd against you. What do you have to say about that?
Well, our response, yes, there's going to be some coaches that can go in and talk the talk, and that's why there's some great recruiters out there. But what we talk to parents about and kids about, and that's the importance of getting them on our campus. Don't ask us. I mean, don't ask the head coach about the head coach. Ask his players. The players will tell you the truth. If players are getting treated badly, if they're getting, it doesn't even have to be racially motivated. If they're getting treated badly and verbally abused and it's a toxic environment, the players there will tell them. And that's why we encourage our guys to come in, spend time with our players on the official visits. We want them to spend time with all our players, not just the hosts. You can, which kids, if a kid goes on a visit and comes back and he says he only hung out with the host, well, that school may be trying to protect themselves, maybe hiding something. We want our kids the host is going to be with us at dinner, but then we want them to go back to the dorms and the apartments and hang out with all the players and get to know everybody, because the guys at the end of the bench will be honest, right? The coaches are going to pick the host.
Absolutely.
Right? But if you're doing things the right way, then you don't have to worry about it at night. Your players are going to speak the truth. If you're handling your business, then the kid's going to get a true reflection of what your program is about, and that's the value of the official visits. But yeah, there's coaches going to go in and say they're doing this and they're doing that, and I'm going to do this for the kid. Coaches are good recruiters.
Indeed. What you have, Heather?
Good. No, I just wanted. We're going to go to a break in about 40 seconds, Coach. I want you to listen. I saw a video, and I'm going to play it for this break. Chris Ballard. I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Ballard, the GM that turned the Indianapolis Colts around. I don't know if you know the Indianapolis coach got a new GM, and he made a statement. I mean, long time ago. I just been holding this statement to today. I just hadn't had the right time to play it, but I am about to play it soon as I click this button. And here it is, right here.
But I can't sit here and remain silent, because that's exactly what we've done every time our Black community screams and yells for help. We have to end social injustices and racial inequalities. We have to end the police violence against our Black communities. Black lives matter. I don't understand why that's so freaking hard for the white community to say. Black lives matter. I've been ignorant. I've been ignorant to the real problem. And I'm ashamed of that. I just came to the realization here over the last 10 days with some really hard, difficult conversations that we've had as an organization, as a team, with my family, with my sons. And I've been ignorant to the real problem. See, this is not a Black problem. This is a white problem. This is an issue that we have to talk about, and we can't sugarcoat it. We can't sugarcoat our way out of this. We can't go back into our bubble, because that's what we've always done. We've always gone right back into our bubble, and we've never really listened. We haven't listened. I haven't listened. We haven't listened as a country. White America refuses to listen. We want to keep things the same, and it can't, or we'll continue down the same path we're continuing down. And that has to change, and nothing will change until we do that. I'm ashamed of that.
Welcome back to the best 120 minutes of your day, the Chop Shop, the nation's #1 urban sports talk show. Yours truly, Robert Hatter, alongside Jim Hicks. And we got the great Coach Steve Henson from University of Texas at San Antonio in the building. Coach, last segment. Jimmy, let's get into it. Let's talk about the team. Let's talk about the coach that came into Houston and just taking all our good players. What's going on down there, Coach? What you doing, Coach?
We got to keep making that trip right down I-10. We're going to keep coming. You know, we're going to fill this roster up. It's, you know, the location with us in Houston, those kids can get away from home, but yet not so far away from home that, you know, on a Friday night in the off season, they can get back home for the weekend. Their parents can still get over and see some games, friends and family. We got a lot of Houston kids that go to UTSA just as students, and our campus is filled with Houston kids. So we knew when we got here that we wanted to recruit Houston. I mean, everybody in the country comes down and does that. But we were hoping we could get in on some of those kids, and we have. We'll have five kids from the Houston area on our roster next year, and we're thrilled with that. Got a couple kids from Dallas. It's been good to us for sure.
And so now, tell us, okay, the program, getting those kids to come to UTSA. You understand? You're in a conference. What is it? Sun Belt or Conference USA?
Conference USA.
Conference USA. Tell us what's the attraction other than the city to you? I'm talking about the Forest campus. It's deeper than San Antonio. What's attracting them? How are you getting them there? Do you have some type of super recruiter on the staff or what?
We got 3 super recruiters. No, everybody talks about culture and environment. You know, it's funny watching press conferences now when they throw all those things together. It is cliche, but we're proud of what we've established here. But I think one of the things that really, really appeals to the kids is our style of play. I mean, we're getting up and down the court. We're flying the ball down the floor. We're shooting it quickly. We're scoring a lot of points. 3 straight years now, I think we've been top 25 in the country of pace and play. We're second in of all the schools. There's 33, 35 Division I schools in Texas. We were second, I think, 2 years in a row in pace of play behind HBU. You know, so we're getting up and down the floor. We give our guys a lot of freedom. What Javon Jackson and Keaton Wallace have been able to do really gets people's attention. Javon went back and forth with Marcus Howard this year, back and forth all year long for the scoring title in the nation. Javon ended up second in the country. Keaton and Javon combined were the leading scoring duo in the country, period. The year before, they were the leading scoring backcourt in the country. So those guys and the way they play, it's appealing to other guys. You know, the guys look out there and see that we give our guys freedom. We have a lot of fun, and we're building something special. We were 2 years ago, we finished tied for second. Last year, we did take a little step back. We didn't defend the way we needed to, but we still feel like we're on the right trajectory. We've got a lot of guys back, and again, just the opportunity to develop, to get better. Style of play. There's going to be more possessions. Guys all want to showcase their skills, and if there's more possessions, there's more opportunities to do that. So that's a big part of it. You know, our second recruiting class, Javon Jackson, Keaton Wallace, a junior college player come in, and we really started changing the perception of our program at that point.
Does freshmen often get to play in your system, or normally do they have to just wait the turn?
Well, it's again, when Javon and Keaton came in, that's why we were able to get players of that caliber is we had a situation where those two were going to come in and have huge roles right away. That's what allowed us to recruit, you know, some high-level guys because they were going to come in and do what Javon Jackson's been scoring at a high rate his entire life. And so we were able to just throw him into a situation where the other guys were role players, were content to let 2 freshmen come in there and have that kind of role. But, you know, it's not junior high. you know, the guys that deserve to be on the court are the guys that are going to be on the court. And if you're a senior and you deserve it, you're going to be out there. If you get beat out by a freshman, that's just the way it is. You know, it's not equal opportunity. You know, the guys that are going to take the most shots are the guys that have the best chance of making the most shots. And so we don't worry about that. You know, and there's no initiations. There's no paying your dues. If you're good enough, you're going to play. And I think that's the way kids want it. You know, the kids know. You know, after practices, kids know what their parents don't always know, or they don't want to hear it. But the kids know who should be playing, who should be taking the most shots.
Speaking of parents, are parents allowed at your practices or whatnot once the kids sign in on campus?
Absolutely. Every practice is open.
Okay.
You know, Coach Kruger did that at Oklahoma. Everywhere I've ever been with Coach Kruger, we did that at UNLV. We did it at Oklahoma. People thought we were crazy, and I never really understood that. But yeah, our practices are open. We'll have students walk in. We've got a couple of fans that'll come in and sit down in the front row and eat their lunch and watch practice. We occasionally have a parent come and sit and watch practice. Doesn't happen very often, but they are open to the public. We think it helps our practices. You know, if you got a little activity and a little distraction on the side, people walking through, forces you to lock in between the lines. Game nights are going to be all kinds of distractions on game nights, so it's all about focusing. But yeah, our practices are going to remain to be open unless somebody comes in there and tries to steal our secrets.
That's funny, Coach. I thought I was getting privileged, man, because I used to go every time I went to town. I went to every one of my sons' practice. Hey, and guess what? Now you done told me they was open. But shoot, I was the only parent. I was the only parent in there. I guess them other parents said, I'm not coming way up there to go to that boy's practice. But it's unique because I never thought about it, Coach. I just walk in there, and sit up there by myself and watch practice. So I'm glad you said that. And thank you so much, because I'm going to sneak up to San Antonio. I'm serious, I have not had the advantage of watching your team play. You know, because I'm watching so much high school basketball, watch so much pro basketball. But guess what? This year, you got a couple of players that I really, really want to see. And guess what? I'm going to make sure I ride up the I-10 and come check it out. Okay?
Roadrunner Freeway. Roadrunner Freeway. We named it. Yeah. Right there between Houston and San Antonio.
I got you, Coach. I got you. What else you got, John?
No, you know what? Javon and Keaton, those guys you talk about fun to watch. I mean, 2 years ago, we went at Western Kentucky on a Thursday night. Javon Jackson had 45. 2 nights later it was at Western Kentucky. He had 45, and at Marshall 2 nights later, Keaton had 44. I mean, it's it's on the road. Yeah, those guys are fun to watch. They fill it up.
Wow.
Speaking of filling it up, Coach, now I'm looking, and during this pandemic, I noticed a lot of the national rankings services have released their summer list, and I've spoke with a couple of them, and they have explained for them in the effort to understand that they've been leaning heavily toward watching video footage from the high school games. So for the first time in recent memory, the high school season had more bearing on the rankings than the grassroots season. What are you guys using as gauges as you recruit or following through? What are your staff using right now?
Well, we're going to be using everything we can get our hands on. It's this class that just finished up. That junior class is going to be impacted, certainly more than any class ever. And there's a ton of factors involved with it. The fact that they missed all of the spring and summer grassroots activities and events, or the majority of them. There may still be some starting to open a few things up. They may change the recruiting calendar, it sounds like, and give us some opportunities at the end of the summer. But now it's when those relationships are so important, to be able to trust the people you trust, the people that know how to evaluate. We're going to have to rely on those people. The high school coaches. Now, the high school coaches that have had a lot of good players over the years, that's going to be a little easier for them. But you get some coaches that maybe this is their first Division I player, and that coach won't have the background to know exactly what level this kid is. So we're going to have to trust our relationships. We're going to have to watch a little more film and do our homework. But those kids are going to be impacted not only because they're not getting to play in front of the coaches, but you got the transfer rules, which are changing dramatically. The transfer portal, there's almost 1,000 kids in that right now. It's impacting things. I think a lot of coaches are going to end up recruiting junior college kids because they won't have as much comfort with the high school kids because they won't lay their eyes on them as much.
And before we get ready to land the plane, Coach, a lot of the viewers may not realize you were drafted into the NBA. You played in the NBA.
Yes.
And recently the NBA, again, Hal didn't realize that.
Oh, my
Yes.
God. I'm sorry, Coach. Coach, you threw me off guard. I didn't do my homework today, Coach. He got me this information too late. Okay, I know exactly. Keep going, Coach. Tell him where you played in college, Coach. Tell him where you played in college. Keep going.
K-State, yep.
And of course, you were drafted in the NBA, and with the NBA, a lot of people, like I said, don't really know. And sometimes we can know a person and not understand them because if we haven't followed to see where they came from, then that gives you a better understanding. So that means if a person that's watching right now knows that you played in the NBA, knows that you were drafted in the NBA in the second round,
yes, sir.
And then that way now they can have an understanding of your validity when I ask you your thoughts on the NBA season that's about to transpire starting July the 31st.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I finished my college career, got drafted by the Bucks, and played 9 seasons. They didn't go exactly the way I would have envisioned it. I would have loved to play for 1 or 2 teams for 9 seasons. That's not what happened. But looking back on it now, I'm kind of glad that I was forced to bounce around so much. It exposed me to so many different coaches, coaching styles. I started my career playing for Del Harris. One of the most organized, prepared coaches that you could ever be around. I went through a summer league with the New York Knicks when Pat Riley was there, watching his attention to detail. Went through training, didn't make the roster one year with Golden State when Don Nelson was coaching. And he was playing then, this was probably 1992, 1993. He was playing then the way the whole world is playing now. He was so far ahead of his time. Small ball, not worried about mismatches. You know, he's probably just sitting back and just smiling. He was so far ahead of everybody else. And watching him, that was with Hardaway and Richmond. Well, Richmond had just left, but Hardaway and Mullins and those guys, and they were playing fast and free and positionless basketball. So try to just take bits and pieces from all those coaches and help formulate our philosophy.
Wow.
And
that's Steve
now you're
Henson.
saying, wow.
That's Steve Henson. Boy, I remember you. We're going to talk.
That's Steve Henson without hair. That is Steve Henson without hair.
We're going to talk.
I look more like a pulling guard, a nose guard or a pulling guard than a point guard. But, yeah, I was a point guard at one time.
And now, speaking of, so one of the coaches on your staff, we got to get ready to land this plane. Coach, give us your last thoughts on society and what's going on out there right now, and your thoughts, of course, on George Floyd and his death. We got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, we were talking about COVID for 2 months, and now we're talking about all the injustices going on.
Yeah.
You know, 4 years ago, I got the job in 2016, and that's when Kaepernick was taking his knee. And we tried to have some open conversations with our players. I encouraged our guys to have a voice then. And to be honest, they weren't very active in that at that time. And I think right now that the anger is a healthy thing. People are pissed off. And we've got to use that. And I saw somebody say this just recently, and this can't be a moment. It has to be a movement. And one of our players the other day said he wanted to do something when the season starts, you know, for a game. And my initial thought was that's too far down. We need to do something now. But we do need to do something now. But it can't stop next week, or it can't stop in 2 weeks. It's got to be a movement. And I think it feels like right now that we're way ahead of where we were 4 years ago. And it's nowhere near where it needs to be, but it needs to be a starting point for sure.
Indeed, Coach, man, we want to definitely thank you for joining us on the Chop Shop. Great combo. You dropped some great nuggets to us and in our effort to continue the conversation. It's not an easy one, and by no means is it a comfortable one, and it's not meant to be, but at least we are having it. And sharing it publicly so that a lot of people out there can help as they push forward. So, Coach, tell everybody I say what's happening. Coach Peck and the rest of the crew down there, tell them what all the guys, the Houston guys on the staff. We are definitely rooting. You qualify as a school that the Chop Shop will be behind because you have 5 or more players from the state of Texas on that roster, and 5 from Houston. Matter of fact, so definitely appreciate it, Coach. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Appreciate it.
That is a great combo with Steve Wilson, guys.
That's for you.
Yes. And I think it's time to go and toss to a break.
We can't
to
go
a
with
quick
you.
break.
Yes.
We're going to a quick break, and then we right back. We will be joined by our second guest, and that is from the SEC. He's no stranger to H-Town, former University of Houston assistant coach, Ronnie Hamilton. Be right back, Coach. Be right after these messages.
This lead me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand it. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
Welcome back to the Chop Shop, your midday sports happy hour, the best 120 minutes of your day. We are officially on the back nine on this Tuesday. We're mourning the George Floyd. Guys, in a good note, it was a great output and showing of love yesterday evening over at Yates High School, whereas the community came out. And it was a great atmosphere. I'm talking about, man, kind of warm, but it wasn't as the temperature dropped down to about the high 80s, low 70s. I mean, high 70s, low 80s, and but it was a great atmosphere. So shout out to everybody, man. And one thing I went on social media and I posted, if people didn't know, have never heard of Jack Yates High before, they definitely have heard of it by now. And guess what? The attention that school is getting, understanding, you can expect big things. And we are expecting some huge announcements for Jack Yates High School from a lot of people around the world want to help out because they found out that Jack Yates, first of all, they just built a brand new school 2 years ago. And that school is an awesome setting in the ambiance of the school because it's the only high school in the United States that sits directly across the street, follow me now, from 2 Division I colleges. A lot of people didn't know that. That's history. It's the only high school in the world that sits across the street from 2 colleges. The University of Houston is on one side across the street, TSU is on the other. So but meanwhile,
Before you
speaking
get
of,
away, before you announce your guest, I just want to. I just thought about something when you just said that. Think about what you just said. It's just your about people around the world going. And every time I look at this this funeral, I'm peeping over at it now, on a monitor. Jimmy, they put one black man down, and they made a world raise up. They put one black man down and made a world raise up and rise up. And that's the unique thing that I love about this thing. And you can bring our guests on. I was just thinking about that, Jimmy. We planted that. They planted that seed, and look, George. Yes, he's about to go into the ground, plant that seed, and watch what rise up from it. That's my goal, to make sure something rise up for it. But introduce our special guest today.
Indeed, and Devin said we go right into our guest. Our second guest today, we have assistant coach Ronnie Hamilton from Ole Miss. He's on the basketball staff, and he has been there for a couple of years. And Ronnie, you guys may remember this face because he was also on the staff at University of Houston back when Joe Young was going to U of H back in the days. And that Joe
Ronnie
Young and the Daniel
staff?
House. Huh?
Ronnie was on that staff?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. And so without further ado, we're introducing you guys Ronnie Hamilton from Ole Miss basketball. We can to continue the conversation.
Jimmy, man, appreciate you guys having me. When I had this opportunity to talk with Jimmy about being on, I've been asked to be on some different platforms, Zooms, and the thing that when
Hold on, Ronnie. Before you go any further, turn your other device down.
Okay.
Your other device that's listening to the show, you're giving us an echo because of the other device is playing. Not your device, your extra one.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what's going on.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, just turn that one because it's just getting feedback.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Let me make sure.
Yeah, as we get him
That's
geared
better.
up, and of
That's
course,
better.
yes, that is Ronnie. And
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
We
Is
can
it
hear-
better?
yes,
Perfect.
that's
Okay,
better.
perfect. But hey, what I was saying was, Jimmy, we talked and had a chance to come on. So I've been asked to be on a few other Zooms, a few other interviews. But the chop shop for me, I'll ask you guys this question. So I'm going to ask you, and it's going to be silly asking you, but I'm sure you guys watch Showtime at the Apollo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can remember in Showtime, if you were an aspiring comedian or artist, and they've had some of the greats, Steve Harvey, Martin Lawrence, Mary J. Blige, on and on and on.
Yeah.
You hadn't arrived until you was asked to come on the Showtime at Apollo.
Okay. I
So
like
for
where you
me,
go.
I feel like I've arrived. Now that I've got the invitation to be on with you guys. And so for all the other Zooms and interviews I've done, this one is special to me. Because as Jimmy said, first of all, you two guys, what y'all do for grassroots basketball in Houston, Texas, and just for the city itself is unbelievable. And Houston is near and dear to my heart. As Jimmy said, I was on the staff there. But if you go back even further in my coaching career, the first ever kid I signed as a full-time assistant, and this was at Tarleton State, was a kid by the name of Warren Webb from Pasadena Dobie High School, played for the Houston Superstars and Keith White.
Yeah.
I got my first high major job at the University of Houston. And you got to remember, when I took the job going from Tulane to Houston, it was going to be in the old Big East. So you're talking about Syracuse, Georgetown, Villanova, St. John's, that Big East, and then they had the realignment. So this is my first high major job. I bought my first house in Houston, Texas.
Wow.
My 7-year-old daughter was born in Houston, Texas. So Houston has a special place in my heart. So as Jimmy said, man, this is special for me, and I'm glad to be on. And I've seen the guys y'all had on, Leonard Hamilton. I saw Coach Lucas on yesterday. Y'all have had police chiefs and politicians. So again, I'd say, man, this is special for me. And I'm glad to be on with you guys.
That's awesome.
Man,
Hey, Ronnie, I got to tell you one of my fondest memories of you.
Fondest memories of you.
Gosh, why are we? My fun. Somebody's got a device that's on.
Yeah, we're reverbing somewhere.
Yes, reverbing. It's just a device is on, another device. My fondest memory is off now. My fondest remembrance of you is me and Jimmy we were at New Orleans for the Final Four. Jimmy and I in New Orleans for the Final Four. So we ran the kid. So Jimmy said, "Man, I got to meet up and run. I got to meet up and run." And you took out your time, college head coach at Tulane, and helped print. I'm not getting you in trouble. And printed up the cheat sheets for Jimmy, and they brought him to him, and Jimmy had the cheat sheets to distribute to the coaches, the physical. I will never forget that because I was saying, this is a college coach. That's that showed me some about you. I mean, I've never told you this story, but that showed me so much about your character. You were a servant. And the Bible always said it, the one who would be greater among you is the one that would be your servant. And I watched your career grow, and I watch you at Tulane. I watch you and keep going and keep going and going. You went to Tulane to Houston, and look at what happened because you had a servant attitude. I'll never forget that. It might have been small to you, but I'm sitting there watching. Wow. Unbelievable. You can talk about it, or Jimmy, you can mention it. It was unbelievable to me. Yeah.
I'll take it from there, and I'll tell you this. So Jimmy knows this. You know, the Final Four for me and him, I equate it to, because sometimes we may not talk maybe once every 3-4 months. It may go a long period of time, but as soon as the Final Four comes, it's like a family reunion.
Yeah, I see.
But we're going to get together at least that one time a year, and we're going to fellowship. Right. And so that's the relationship that we have. But on that note, in terms of that, I remember that, and I kind of had forgot it, to be honest with you. But when he called and asked, it wasn't even a question of if.
Right.
And it'll lead to me. It will lead me into a story, if you guys don't mind. I'm gonna share this story with you. I've shared it with some people. And so a lot of people have asked about my journey in coaching. And I'll be real quick because I know we got a limited amount of time. I want to get the question and some other things we want to talk on. I know it's a lot going on in the world. But I tell simply people, I'm not supposed to be here.
Okay.
Because think about this. Take out the Power 5 schools, and there's over somewhere between 55 to 65. I don't know the exact number. So there's 3 times that number. That's the number of Power 5 assistant coaches. So I'm in that club. But think of it on a Division I level. There's 350 some odd. Again, that number changes, so I can't tell you the exact number. But I know my math tells me that's 1,000 assistant coaches. So I'm one of 1,000, and it's people way more qualified to do what I've done or do what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people I'm not supposed to be here simply because somebody pushed me forward to allow me to get where I've been. All the places I've been. So I've been at UNC Pembroke as a grad assistant. Tarleton State, which is in Stephenville, Texas, my first place I lived outside of where I grew up from. Then from there to Citadel. From there, I went to Tulane, and then there to Houston, and then there to Middle Tennessee State. But in each of those spots, Jimmy, somebody blessed me. And so I've told this a few times, and I'm going to share it with you guys on the Chop Shop. And you guys can steal it if you want to. But I always would say this internally to me, and then I'm telling it so people can hear it. I've had an idea that because somebody has blessed me, I've got to be able to bless them back. And so in your case, what you're talking about with Jimmy, he called me. And I remember he said, I need these printed off. And it was no question. It was going to happen any way I could, any way I how. And so I know because people have helped me get to where I got to, I say, people, man, don't forget to hear the sneeze. Let me ask you this. When somebody sneezes, and I had a friend from Germany, and when you sneeze around a person from Germany, they say Gesundheit. But in America, where we live, and you sneeze, it could be your family friend, it could be
bless you.
So I've always said, don't forget to hear the sneeze, because somebody has helped you, you bless them. You bless somebody else. You push somebody else forward. So in your case, Robert, man, I've always tried to have that in my mindset, be a servant. If I can help anybody, I always try to do the very best job I can. Can't help everybody. but that's kind of what's allowed me to kind of get to where I've gotten to and allowed me to be able to continue to do the things I'm doing. So don't forget to hear the sneeze.
I like
You've
that.
been blessed. Bless somebody else.
I like that. Jimmy?
How far are we from the break?
Got 3
Adam?
minutes, 3.5 minutes.
Okay, so now I want to ask you, and as far as blessing, you mentioned that you're not supposed to be here. And I want to add to that and compound on that. For many people didn't realize, I will share one thing. You went to college, you went to Duke. And a lot of people may not know that. They say, well, you went to Duke, and they start thinking, well, I don't remember no Ronnie Hamilton at Duke. I remember Jay Will. I don't remember Ronnie Hamilton. That little guy played at Duke. And you went to Duke on scholarship, but you played football.
Oh.
How football coach become a basketball coach in college for all these years?
Interesting.
Great question. And it's one I get a bunch. And I tell you, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said before. I'm not supposed to be. There's a lot more guys qualified to do what I'm doing right now. Okay. You know, to be at the University of Mississippi at Ole Miss. And I heard you tell Steve, you kind of talked to him when you told Robert, say he played the NBA. And immediately it hit you. That's Steve Henson.
I remember him.
And so I think, you know, what happens, and this is just me in my opinion, a lot of times we can get validation from a couple different ways. And we can get verified. You know, everybody wants that verification, that blue check on Twitter, right? And so I had this crazy idea, Hicks, that I wanted to coach. I had two dreams, really and truly. One of them was to play at the NFL, play in the NFL. I was a basketball guy, heart and heart, my soul and soul, since I was about 10, 11, 12 years old. As I continued to play and got into high school, it became apparent that I was going to be a little bit better in football and have a chance to get a scholarship at a higher level, possibly play at the professional level. But it was always this urge and this little itch to be a basketball coach at the collegiate level. And so I went through, ended up going to Duke, like you said, fast forward, get finished at Duke, get opportunity to get in camp with the New York Giants, get cut in training camp. And so I'm sitting at that moment in time, what's next? And I could have pursued some Canadian League stuff, Arena League stuff, some professional stuff at that point in time, but something kept coming back to me. I'm sitting there just thinking, you know, what would I love to do for the rest of my life? And just something kept coming back to me about being a college basketball coach. And so, again, I didn't have the validation of experience in terms of the actual sport. I didn't play in the NBA. I didn't have the validation of somebody stamping my name and like getting a reference from Coach K or Bill Self. But my validation over a period of time, how I've gotten here, is by just hard work and work ethic. And so my work and then being blessed has allowed me to be in the position I am. But it's always been something I've wanted to do. When I got done playing, I pursued it and pursued it and pursued it and pursued it. And it's led me to this point in time right now, being here.
Jimmy,
so what we do,
give me 20 seconds.
Great, quick 20 seconds. So you were at school. Give us your best Daniel Ewing story.
Wow.
Daniel from Willow Ridge High School, and he was at Duke when you were there. Yeah. But we got to go to a quick break first, and we come right back. We got Ronnie Hamilton, some more stories, and we get into the conversation with him as well. You guys hang right there on the Chop Shop. Be right back.
Jimmy, I want to talk about the Above All Sports Hoops. They got the Houston National Summer Showcase. Y'all can register today. Go to www.aboveallsportshoops.com. You can call Brian Jolivet at 281-414-8103. Let me tell you something, boys and girls, next month, June the 3rd through June the 5th, let me tell you something, these tournaments are cranking up now, Jim. I think that week after, we're going to have the GMI. But on July 3rd through 5th, the Houston National Summer Showcase. Register today, aboveallsportshoops.com. Call or contact Brian Jolivet at 281-414-8103. Great tournament. A great tournament, run by a great organization. But let me tell y'all something. I got something for you. another. I got another one for you, and it was here. This is the one I wanted to hit you. Oh, not that one.
Sir, you are helping banks you don't own.
Correct.
You are helping small businesses that you don't own. You are calling the government. You're calling banks. You're doing all this stuff. And not only that, you're trying to move the culture. You're working with Deion Taylor. Help me understand why. I don't see any other billionaire. I don't see any other billionaire on planet Earth doing what you're doing, trying to help businesses that they don't even own. Why are you doing this?
It is important for us to ensure that I'm going to say these words, don't waste this crisis. This has been the first redistribution of capital of size and mass from the government to the citizens of America. Our community needs to ensure that we get our fair share of this and the ability to modernize, repair, restore, and regenerate our communities.
I got more of that, Jimmy. I got more of that. That's Robert F. Smith, a billionaire, the same Robert F. Smith who gave the money, who relieved the debt of the Morehouse class of 2019. Everybody, he paid for everybody's. He relieved everybody's debt that day. So it's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable guy. When you're in those positions, Ronnie, what you said, you give back when you're in those. But welcome back to the best 120 minutes of your day. Yours truly, Robert Hatter, Jim Hicks, and Ronnie Hamilton from the mighty Ole Miss basketball team, assistant coach. Jimmy, where were we at?
Yeah. Going into the break, we were asking you for, of course, Ronnie went to Duke where he played football. He's now a basketball coach going on 15 plus years in the NCAA at various schools. Now, during your tenure at Duke, and you came out in 2002, well, guess what? That was right around the sophomore season after the freshman season for Daniel Ewing, who came out of Willow Ridge High School to McDonald's All-American alongside T.J. Ford. Tell us, and then you also there, D. Ewing and Jay Williams in the backcourt together. They had, great times. Give us your Daniel Ewing story.
Great question. So, you got to remember, so after basketball season's over with, and this probably was, I guess, D. Ewing's after his freshman year, may have been, freshman year. So there's a building on campus called the Wilson Rec Center. That's where we would go with. And you understand, football players all thought they were really good in basketball. And again, I was a basketball guy. Now I played football, but I played basketball all my life. So it was a period of time, or it was a point in time where basketball season's over with, football, we hadn't started camp, and we would all go to the Wilson Rec Center to play pickup. And so in this particular day, I can remember it now, like it was yesterday. I had a buddy of mine, one of my best friends, who's a basketball player, pretty good, HBCU guy, all right, named D.P. Lyons. Grew up together. And so he came to visit me, man. We go to the Wilson Rec Center, and we're running the court. I mean, we just, again, I could play the game. I wasn't a Duke level guy. So all of a sudden, here comes Jay Will, Chris Duhon, and D. Ewing. They call next. And so they get on the court and just think, hey, we're going to run these guys, these football guys. I got a buddy of mine with other guys. And so what happened was the game kind of started off, semi-competitive, but, you just playing. And it gets to where it's hotly contested. It's 5-5, may have been, it's a 1-point game. And what happened, Jimmy, the crowd in the Wilson, because again, those guys at Duke, they don't see them all the time. They clamor in the Cameron, but they don't see those guys all the time in that intimate setting. Sure enough, in about a 2 or 3 minutes spell, the whole rec center gets so crowded around the gym we're at. It's like we're almost in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Because we're talking, I'm talking junk to Jay Will. My guys talking junk to Chris Duhon, D. Ewing's in there. And it actually gets to a point where it's like, I can't remember what we're going to. If it was 10-10 and next point wins, it got that heated, got that competitive. And they ended up beating us, and they wouldn't let us win because they weren't gonna get us. They wouldn't let us get dubbed.
No.
But I always remember that. So that was a great story, and those guys are great. They went on to win a national championship, beat Arizona. while I was there, and D. Ewing had a huge part in that, man. But those guys were great guys.
Hey, Coach, I got a question for you from the YouTube feed. Kent Lutz, he said, question for Ronnie. How has he grown as a coach in looking at character in his recruiting of recruits? How has you grown as coach in looking at character in your recruiting of your recruits?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as you get older, hopefully you get wiser, right? And so as you've been in different places, you get the benefit of seeing guys you coach, what allows them to be successful. And, you're a young guy. Obviously, the importance of recruiting. So you're out there on the road. You're trying to get the best players. You just maybe trying to look for the best athletes, all those different things. And as I've gotten older in the profession, the character piece, the intangible piece is just as important as the basketball part. There's some guys that are really talented basketball players. Y'all seen this in Houston that have all the talent, but from a character standpoint and tangible standpoint, don't turn out what you would think they would be. So what I've done more and more and more is try to really peel back the layers of that. How do you do that? You got to really do your homework. Whether it's talking to high school coaches, AAU coaches. Then you got to talk to people that didn't even coach. Didn't coach the kid, where they played against them. Get into the schools. Talk to as many people as you can about them. Because the more you know about them, the better chance you're going to be able to hit in terms of when they get to your campus, are they as good as you think they are? And then can they be better than what you even thought because they got high character, high work ethic, all those things. It's no different from when somebody interviewing for a job. So if I'm going to try to be a head coach, I'm going to give them a reference page. I know what the reference page is going to say, right? They're going to say nothing but good things. But unless you go past the reference page in recruiting, then you can really discover what type of kids you're getting. So it's critical. And the thing about it, at this level, and it's at all levels, boy, but you miss, the misses will hurt you sometimes. If you miss and get the wrong one in terms of character, they can hurt you just as bad as the ones you get. You know what I mean? That may not be as good as you want from a talent standpoint. So that's a great question, and it's something that I think young guys to get into the business maybe miss early on because they're in such a hurry. Slow down, man. Do your due diligence. Make sure you check all the boxes of what's important to your program.
On the staffs as an assistant coach, your head coach gets on your ass more for bringing in a kid of bad character or bringing in a kid who is nowhere near as good as you guys thought he was?
It's a great question. I think it's a twofold question. If a kid is not as good as you thought, but he's a really good kid, you can give that kid, you coach is going to be upset, but he's going to give that kid a benefit of doubt in instances where that kid may be a program guy. He may be a great leader in your locker room. He may not be the most talented, but he may be able to pull one or two guys up just because he'll get in the gym and work a little harder. He may be great in the community. Now, the trick is you can't have too many of them guys because you won't win a lot of games. But if you get a kid that is really talented and has low character and can do some things maybe to hurt the program as far as getting in trouble off the court, getting in the newspaper, those guys can potentially hurt you worse than a guy who maybe not as talented. So it's a kind of a two-loaded question. Either way, the head coach gonna be mad at you.
Okay.
So again, it goes back to what you got asked. You better do your responsibility is to be able to evaluate really well. Then you got to do your part outside of evaluating to make sure you don't miss on the character. And if you miss on both of them, well, you got big problems. Because now you got a kid that ain't good enough, and they can really, really hurt you. And that's the worst combination.
I got another one for you, Ronnie. Coach Hamilton from Rick Godfrey. He said, what is your fondest memory from coaching at U of H, and who was your favorite player?
Wow, that's a good one. You know what? Fondest memory, there's a couple. And I know he's asked for one. We played Connecticut to open American Athletic Conference, the first game in the history of the league if you guys remember this. We were without Daniel House because he just had surgery on a meniscus. We were down a starter right there. They had, if you remember, Shabazz Napier, Ryan Boatwright, that backcourt. We beat them. They were ranked at U of H. And then, you know, if you fast forward, they went on to win a national championship. So we had a win. I thought that was big time. And then even you go back a year before that, that first year we were there, and we were young, man. All those guys were young guys. Tayshaun Thomas, you mentioned Joe Young. House was a freshman. J. Rod Stigger, all those guys were young. We had enough success to get into the CBI, and we drew Texas. It was Rick Barnes last year, the only year he didn't go to the NCAA tournament. And they came and played at Houston. Could never get them on the schedule. And we beat them in the CBI, and that was a big time win for us to play those guys. So there was a lot of fun memories. Favorite player, man, I'm a big Joe Young fan. You know, I'm a big Joe Young fan. No, he ended up leaving us. But I would tell people, man, Joe had a work ethic that was unbelievable. I mean, dude, you know, obviously came from Yates High School, played for Coach Wise, those guys. But, man, to see him work the way he worked, it wasn't a surprise that he made it to the NBA and with the Pacers. I mean, he put the work in. So I love guys, man, who had the work ethic. He had talent, but he had work ethic behind it. And so those you know, Joe Young, I love Tayshaun Thomas. But we had a good group of guys. I mean, they were young. And I think if those guys had a chance to stay together, you know, we had a chance to have a little bit more success.
And I mean, half the guys that you mentioned transferred as well. You mentioned Joe Young transferred. Hell, Thomas went to Oklahoma. House went to A&M. and every guy that left you guys made all conference in the schools that they transferred to. Did you realize that?
Hey, this wasn't intentional on this one. Hey, we didn't. Hey, listen, Robert. Hey, we didn't forget to hear the sneeze because we blessed a lot of coaches that got extensions because of the guys we had. So it wasn't by intention. But you're right. I mean, Tayshaun Thomas goes to Oklahoma and they get to the tournament.
Right.
Joe Young's the Pac-12 Player of the Year at Oregon. Daniel House goes on to be part of one of the most incredible comebacks in the NCAA history with A&M. I think they were down like 10, 11 points with 40-something seconds to go. And then he starts for the Rockets. So we wasn't devoid of talent. We had talent, you know, and but it was a good group, man. It was a fun group to coach. It was a great learning experience being there. Got a chance to be around guys like yourself more than I would have otherwise. But I enjoyed every bit of it, every moment of it.
You know what's so unique, Ronnie? You got a football background, and now you're a Power 5 conference coach. That just throws that little thing out the window. You know, like, because they used to get on Jimmy, Jimmy a baseball player. He don't know nothing about no basketball. Alan Branch a football player. He don't know nothing about no basketball. But these two guys or from Dallas and Houston, or a lot of people depends on these guys' information to look at college basketball. I mean, potential college basketball players. And I look back and I said, wait a minute, this guy, you just told them you are Power 5 conference head coach at Ole Miss, SEC. And you was a football player. So guess what, everybody? And I hate to say this, and your basketball purists gonna kill me, but let me tell you something. You can study a game and study the game. They're not playing. Jimmy don't play. Allen don't play. But these guys, like Jimmy said, man, I got a doctorate in this stuff. I got 20 years in this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And if you learn something, even me, Ronnie, I would never think I would be producing a show like I'm doing right now on here with all of these gadgets. If y'all saw all of this stuff a few years ago, I would say, man, what the? When Jimmy and I used to walk into the radio station, I see all those gadgets. But guess what I used to do, Ronnie? I always video what they were doing.
Yeah.
I always watch what they were doing. Go home and watch it. You know, and that's it, man. But I just want to, it's a testament to you. and other people who might not be a basketball player. You might not been a Division I basketball. You wasn't a Division I basketball player, was you? You wasn't. So and see, and what I and I throw that thing out of the window because I watched Larry Bird, one of the greatest players, Magic Johnson, one of the greatest players, can't coach a lick. You follow me? So Michael Jordan can't GM a lick. He can own a little bit, but his GM skills. So that's a testament to the guys out there who cover this game and watch this game and analyze this game a lot closer than we do. And it's a testament to you guys.
Yeah. And I think this, Robert, you look at Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl wasn't a basketball player. He wasn't. And so there's many examples of that in terms of this particular sport in basketball. And my dad always said, you could be anything you want to be in life if you work hard enough for it. And it always stuck with me. And again, like I told you earlier, I had a passion for doing it, and I had a drive and a work ethic, and that carried me through. Like I said, a lot of people have helped me along the way. It never gets lost on me, but I backed it up with my own self-drive and self-motivation. And I got a buddy of mine that has been recently trying to become where he can do house appraisals, right? You can appraise houses. Well, understand when you're trying to be a guy who can appraise houses, you have to go through an apprenticeship. What is that? You have to go and follow somebody else who has done it before you for a set amount of time, whether it's 2-3 years, whatever it may be. And then you have to test and then be able to now go and do it on your own. And so I say that to say, like, if you study the game enough, and like Jimmy has been around basketball for over 2 decades, more than that. He knows basketball. He's proven that, through his study and through his time and through his effort. And so that's the thing with me. Like, I had a passion for it, and my journey is unique. And I like my journey because it shows other guys that you don't necessarily have to have the experience of playing or have to have somebody stamp your approval to get that validation, that verification check that you try to get on Twitter. You can make your own way and be what you want to be.
Okay, we're going to take a quick
break. We go to a quick break, and we come right back with assistant coach Ronnie Hamilton, Ole Miss basketball. You guys hang right there. If you're on the Facebook feed, perfect time to share the show.
Hi, it's Jimmy. It is Friday.
Before you call the cops, I just want you to know the first thing that I did when I woke up this morning was yell at my alarm clock. My parents were raised in the South. I have to roll Tide or they'll disown me. They raised me in Las Vegas. That city still has my heart. I hate spiders. I'm a vegetarian. I'm not proud about it. I've done goat yoga. I'm really not proud about that. I can tell you every single word off the NWA Straight Outta Compton album. I can also sing you every single word from Oklahoma. Bananas are disgusting. I am a Christian. I spend almost every Sunday morning teaching kids in Sunday school. I am often asked if I am Muslim. I'm okay with that. I'm pretty much convinced if you met my mother, you'd automatically become a better person. My father is a veteran. He taught me how to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, to everyone that I meet. I don't hate our president. I pray for him. I love basketball and also hockey. This is my brother, James. This is my brother, Mike. This is my brother John, and this is my brother Rob. I've never been to jail. I've never owned a gun. I hate that anyone at all might possibly be afraid of me. I'd go around the world and back again if I knew that single act might make your day better. I'm a proud man. I'm a proud black man. Does any of this really matter? No. I just wanted you to get to know me better before you called the cops.
Welcome back to the best 120 minutes of your day. The Chop Shop, the nation's #1 urban sports talk show, and also your midday sports happy hour. Yours truly, Robert Hatter, alongside Jim Hicks, and our special guest, Mr. Ronnie Hamilton, assistant coach at Ole Miss University in Oxford, Mississippi. Jimmy, let's work this thing around. Cause Jimmy,
let's get.
Tell him why we're gonna get this sermon. Tell him why we're gonna get this segment and move this segment. Cause tell him what we want to do.
Well, that's what we're gonna do. In order to give everybody, in all fairness, of course, in funerals, there's a high degree of anticipation for this particular funeral for the eulogy, which will be given once again.
By Al Sharpton.
My mind going blank. By Al Sharpton.
Yeah.
And so, in all fairness, not be selfish, we want to give everybody the opportunity. The sermon hadn't came up. It's supposed to be coming up shortly in about 10 minutes. And we're going to go, this will be our last segment, and we'll land the plane so that everyone can go, if they choose to do so, and watch the eulogy. So that's what we're going to do. So the last segment, we get right into it. We got a couple of questions from the Boom Boom Room. We'll toss to Coach Hamilton, and we'll engage into the conversation, which I know he's anxious to get into. First question is from Mo City's finest. Coach, who would be your top 5 Ole Miss basketball players of all time?
Wow. I tell you this, I'll bring it to you right here to the city of Houston. Number 1. You want to go up or you want to go down? How you want to
of all time? All time means since integration. That's what that's to black folk.
And so what I'm gonna say, do you want me to go 5 down or you want me to go 1 to 5?
Come on. We on the clock.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna do number 5. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna say number 5 is Marshall Henderson. I gotta give respect to Marshall.
Okay, smack talker himself.
Big time player from the state of Texas. Number 4, I'm gonna have to go with a guy named, and this is older guy, so you may not be as familiar with, but a guy named John Stroud. John Stroud. I think he's an all-time leading scorer here at Ole Miss. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys can look that up. Number 3, I'm gonna bring it back to present day, and I'm gonna say a guy by the name of Terrence Davis, who's currently with the Toronto Raptors. We coached him our first year here, led us to the NCAA tournament, doing unbelievable things with the Raptors. Probably been the biggest surprise of the NBA rookies this season. Terrence Davis, Toronto Raptors from South Haven, Mississippi. Number 2, I'm going to say Coolidge Ball. Look this up. He was the first black player at the University of Mississippi. And that important in itself. He was a great player, but that in itself, I got to put him in number 2. And number 1, bringing it all the way back to H-Town. Ansu Cisse.
Ansu Cisse. And Ansu is on.
Hold up.
Listen.
Ronnie. Johnny Newman, man. You can't leave Johnny Newman out. I grew up from Memphis, 60 miles away. Johnny Newman better than everybody you just mentioned.
Good player.
But
player of the year on the NCAA tournament team. And I tell you this, if he had made the free throws against Valparaiso, you never knew who Bryce Drew was. Because that's what allowed Bryce Drew to make the shot when Valparaiso beat Ole Miss in the tournament. Probably was going to be a Sweet 16, Elite 18. But Johnny Newman was a great player. I'm a little biased because the TD had to put Marshall Henderson, had to give some respect to Coolidge Ball. And the John Stroud was a
Marshall
tremendous
Henderson
player.
couldn't touch Johnny Newman. Johnny Reb.
Yeah.
Johnny Reb.
He's
Jimmy,
a bad boy.
Jimmy, you
He
gotta
was good.
understand. I shouldn't be saying Reb now because you know, but Jimmy, oh my goodness. But don't
was
say
good.
good guy. But Johnny Newman was unbelievable. But keep going, Jimmy.
He was
What's the next question?
Now, I want to get right into it. Of course, Ronnie, everything with going on, and this is the day we lay George Floyd to rest, and proceedings are going on as we speak. In your dealings, of course, you played at Duke football, but we all know the history in the old tobacco roads of North Carolina, as well as in that whole part of the country. Give us, as a student athlete, have you ever came face to face with a racist situation involving police officers?
Yeah. I think we all have at some point. I'm assuming, speaking for others in this instance, but I can recall a time, and I shared this with our guys, really quickly after watching George Floyd and him getting murdered. I remember when I was at Tennessee, at Middle Tennessee State, not many years ago. So this is maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I've got one of our players, real quickly, I know we limited with time, but one of our players, I was going to take him to go finish an assignment that had to be done that particular day. And he's one of my academic guys, so, normally assistant coaches, we all divvy up the guys and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. So I get a call from my academic lady, hey, Brandon Walters has to get this project done, this assignment done by today. So I said, and part of it was, hey, we got to go to this museum. I can't even remember the museum. We got to go to this museum, take some pictures, get some pamphlets, and like you were there. It was like a sports recreation class. And so I said, Brandon, B, hey, I'm going to meet you at 7:45. I want to get there as soon as this thing opens up. Let's take these pictures. I'm going to pick you up, get you back to your, dorm or whatever. You got this assignment done. You go to class that particular day. So, just right on time. Pick them up. We get to the deal. Nobody's there. Man, we the first ones to open the building. Going there, it doesn't take 5-10 minutes. We pull out of the museum, and as soon as we do, flashing lights pull behind us, and I can remember it vividly. We kind of just laughing at each other. I don't even know what the conversation was. We just kind of laughing at each other, and we see the blue lights, and I'm like, what? I know I haven't done anything wrong. So here comes the cop, and you got to understand, Brandon was like 6'9", 6'10", big guy. And he had kind of he can get emotional real quick, and so he immediately, coach, man, why they pulling us over? And he's sitting on my passenger side. Police comes, and he immediately, what are you guys doing pulling out of there? It's the first assumption that we were doing something wrong when I hadn't done anything, and I had explained to him who I was. Brandon is over here, as a young guy getting a little bit heated. I'm trying to calm him down because I knew it could have escalated quickly, but I got so emotional, Jimmy, and so heated just inside me, because here I am thinking, hey, I'm trying to help a player just do an assignment. I'm to a point where I'm an educator, in a sense, a coach, and I'm getting pulled by simply because of the color of my skin. And we eventually, the situation didn't escalate, and we were eventually able to leave off and go back to campus, and it ended kind of there. But I had a detective that I knew in town, African-American black guy, called him immediately, said, man, this is racial profiling. Now I want to get these are badge number of these guys. I want to report them to somebody because it could have led to a different outcome. And, I think like some people don't realize how agonizing or how much anxiety comes over you just by being pulled by the police. And it's real, so I experienced it. Even we had an incident here, at Ole Miss, where our guys, we had some protests on campus 2 years ago, and our guys knelt, we saw some of those things here. So, but I just, as we know, in these times we are in this tragedy, senseless tragedy, like you said, had earlier. We hope that we can see real change. And I would urge. I saw. I don't know if you've seen it. I saw a documentary yesterday that was so unbelievable to me, so fascinating. I mean, I've told about 5 or 6 people today about it. It's called The 13th. It's called The 13th. Have you seen? Have you seen it, Jim?
Talking about the 13th Amendment.
Yes, by Anna. I want to say it right. Anna DuVernay, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ava.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ava. Yeah. Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Robert?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Several times.
It's an unbelievable piece, and I think if everybody could watch that, you could see how we have gotten to this point in time.
Yes.
And I always, knowledge is power, and so I think the thing that I see now that I hope brings about real change is that we get in these conversations, these dialogues, and we can understand. We have a lot of differences, but man, we can come together. So that's my hope. But I've experienced it, and it's real.
And speaking of the real, and now you're a coach. You're working. You're living in Mississippi. A lot of people down south. You have to realize, you can't. When you think about racial brutality situations, it's hard to do so without thinking about your state of Mississippi.
And that city.
Well, I'm just talking about, I'm blanking the whole state. That way in singling out Oxford, Mississippi.
Yeah.
But what now is the atmosphere with the police there? In the aftermath of what's going on right now with Big Floyd.
Yeah, particularly here. I don't know if the device is vibrating.
Yeah.
But it's been really encouraging because we've had several protests that have been really peaceful. Really peaceful. It's what you would hope to see everywhere. In terms of people of all colors, white, black, Hispanic, coming together and trying to bring about real change. And so I know this state has a history that we're not all proud of, being a resident of Mississippi right now. But I do think it can be a place that can signal significant change what we do from here on out. And that's what I want to be a part of. That's my personal challenge to myself, is what can I do? A lot of people have made statements. I've said that. I know you've seen me. But actions louder than words. And so we've got to do things that really, really bring about change, talking about change. And so it's been my personal challenge in these times to make that possible, that happen, to see that come.
Has any of your white friends reached out to you and invited you or solicited you to engage in a type of productive conversation over the past 2 weeks since this stuff been going on?
A few, not as many as I would like. So I've initiated the conversation myself. Like I told you earlier.
How?
Just sitting down having tough conversations. Hey, what do you think about what Drew Brees said? What's your thoughts on that? How can we understand each other differently? Because we're afraid to have the conversations, and it's uncomfortable conversation, right? But I've always believed that nothing worth having comes easy. So it may be difficult, but we got to have it to understand each other. And to me, that's the big. We don't have the conversations, and I'm guilty of it too. You look at it. We go through life. We go through in the hurriedness of what we do, and sometimes the status quo just kind of keeps us going about our business. The one thing that I'll say with George Floyd and the murder of George Floyd is made us all. I think in that particular. Actually, I think it may not have been that 13th, but it was something else I read. It said, you had to shock people into paying attention. And this right here has been a shock that made people pay attention. Think about this. With the virus, And I even said this, there's points in times in history that are so significant that they create change. And even with COVID, George Floyd's murder came at a point where, as we were moving out of quarantine, we were still in a point where we will pause for a second. And so in some ways, I say, did it happen in this particular time for this particular reason so that we were all paying attention? And sometimes we may not have been if we were just in our normalcy of going and running around, doing all our different things, because we were in a time where we weren't doing that. And so I'm encouraged and of the belief that, like you said earlier, a seed can be planted so we can grow for the better, But to your point, to your question, I've had a few, and they'll sometimes say, "Hey, how you doing? Just want to check on you," and then I lead that into the conversation. Why didn't you check on me before? But I think those conversations have to be had. On a large scale too. Just even one-on-one. I ain't forget to hear you sneeze right there. I didn't forget to hear you sneeze right there. Bless you.
Say, man, Ronnie Hamilton, man. Hey, man, we definitely appreciate it, man. We are at the end of the clock, and guess what, man? We great convo, great nuggets, and sincere, and you've picked up a lot of fans watching from the audience of the Chop Shop, and that's one of the objectives when we have coaches on is to be able to let them, even though some may know you, many may not understand you. And this is an effort as people hear, they can hear what's in your heart by the way you verbalize it and the way it releases it flows out your mouth. And that's what I meant earlier when I was explaining to people about knowing a person versus understanding what makes them tick about certain things. You will never know what makes me completely tick, but you may be able to understand what makes me tick about this or that. We definitely understand you.
And Ronnie,
hard.
And Ronnie, you sound like a head coach. You sound like a leader of men. You sound like a CEO, and that's what that's all our goal. We want to make sure. I mean, you come across that you can run a program. So if any AD see this, any a president see this, I comfort with this young man running my program. But I think it's about Jimmy. They wipe the podium. They wipe the podium down after every preacher go up on the thing. I'm watching it on my monitor. It's unbelievable. It's a great day. It's a great day. This is a celebration, y'all. This is not a sad day. This is a celebration. And they got my man Ralph Rest up there. So I got to get out of here. Jimmy, what you got?
Orangebrook High School.
Yes, sir.
Hey, let me just close on this note right here real fast. Hey, so when I got on, real quick, I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
I talked about this like I was getting invited to Showtime at the Apollo.
Okay.
And if you remember, at the Showtime Apollo, they had amateur night.
Right.
And so what I wanted to do while I was on here, I just didn't want to get booed off. I wanted to get my whole time and take it to another level. When you was really good, what did they ask you to do?
Come back.
You would really come back.
Come back.
So please, I hope I was good enough. I didn't get booed off. I hope I was good enough to get called, come back. Man, I enjoyed you guys. Man, you guys do an unbelievable job for the city of Houston and for everybody there. And it's been a pleasure.
All right.
Hey, man, thanks a bunch, Ronnie, man. And we definitely gonna get you back in there, man. You be careful down there and just stay woke and continue to enhance and guide those young people. Get them registered to vote. If they're not, encourage them to vote. Encourage your boss man to make sure your team has an appointed day off, either for early voting or on voting day. Don't you go schedule no game. If that's either or, make sure, if nothing else, that opportunity is presenting itself so that they will have no not to get to the polls. And that's how you go and you get it. Keep doing that. Make it. Anyway, guys, we want to let you go today. It's time to land the plane. Yes, indeed. It is time to slide on down Dino's back and yabba dabba do this thing until tomorrow. Of course, great show today. Thanks for Coach Steve Henson. Thanks for Ronnie Hamilton. Of course, on behalf of Robert Haller, myself, Jim Hicks, and I'm about to go and turn all of the sound up and as we prepare to get the eulogy before laying the rest of Big George Floyd, man. You guys and meanwhile, as we go out, we'll go out with a moment of silence on behalf of George Floyd. I know it's not 8 minutes and 20 seconds, guys, but guess what?
That was enough. That's good.
That was enough.
That was good.
And we it's the thought that count. We guys see you in 22 hours. Chop shop. Peace. We up out here.
Jim Hicks, Rob Hatter, you are now tuned in to the Chop Shop. I'm Retro. Let's get it. We in the Chop Shop, we live in the Chop Shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the Chop Shop. We in the Chop Shop, I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up, it's live in the Chop Shop. We in the Chop Shop, we live in the Chop Shop. We talking sports talk, we live in the Chop Shop.